morning to all. Myself Professor Archana from Department of Petroleum Engineering, IIT ISM Dhanbad. We are in course of Fundamental of a Carbon Capture, Utilization and Storage. So lastly we discussed the topic greenhouse emission sources, climate change and its impact. So we are in module 2. So I am going to start the new thing, that is our concept of a carbon credit and carbon trading, carbon footprint. So first we will be discussing United Nations Framework Convention on a Climate Change. So we have to start this concept of carbon trading. To understand that, let's start with history of it, from where it started. So there is a one convention that called the United Nations Framework Convention on a Climate Change, UNFCCC. It is formed in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, at the Rio Earth Summit, where it was opened for signature, officially entered into force in 1994. So it is formed in 1992. UNFCCC was formed in 1992. So first we have to know what is the objective of UNFCCC. We have seen in the last classes there is a need of focusing on, as per the previous discussion, we have noticed that we are talking about the global warming, atmospheric lifetime, climate change. So definitely there is a need of focusing on or correcting our mistake or mitigating the changes with respect to CO2 concentration in global level. Keeping that in mind, that means climate change or concentration of a CO2, there is a formation of a UNFCCC, that is a United Nations Framework Convention on a Climate Change. So countries recognize the urgent need to cooperate globally to prevent dangerous human-based interference with the Earth's climate system. So what is the aim here? It aims to stabilize greenhouse gas concentration to allow ecosystem to adapt and ensure sustainable development. So what we get it here? So there is a foundation of a one framework, and it was established in 1992, and the focus was given that globally people are worried about the increasing level of a greenhouse gases. So what is required here? We require to stabilize the concentration of a greenhouse gases, and we have to move towards the ecosystem or sustainable development. Moving on, this UNFCCC formation established a foundational treaty for international climate action and leading to crucial agreements like Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. These two things is there to reduce emission, CO2 emission or greenhouse gas emission and manage the climate impact. So what is the key driver for UNFCCC formation? So first is the scientific understanding. So there is a growing scientific evidence that highlighted the threat of rising global temperature from human induced greenhouse gas emission. So in the previous discussion we do talk about there is a natural emission of a greenhouse gases, or there is another way where greenhouse gases are getting into the atmosphere, that is a human induced greenhouse gases. So what is the global threat here? Climate change, which impacts sea level rise, extreme weather condition that become a universally recognized concern that necessitating a united response. So what are the other key driver here? So preventing catastrophe. What does it mean? The core goal was to stabilize greenhouse gas level to avoid severe disruption to food production and threat to economic development. The other reason is foundation for action. What does it mean? It provided a legal and political framework for future more specific commitment like binding targets under Kyoto Protocol and universal goal under the Paris Agreement. One more thing here, common but differentiated responsibility. What does it mean? CBDR we call it. It is under the UNFCCC. So what does mean here? Common but differentiated responsibilities. It introduced the principle that all nations must act but with differing level of responsibility and capacity, acknowledging developed countries historical emission and developing countries need. So what does it mean? As we proceed further in this talk, we more elaborate on this one, but currently we can understand this way. We have the countries, different countries. So some countries we categorize as a developed countries, some countries they are still developing, so some are developing countries. So when we are imposing any rule or we are looking for responsibility from the different countries, so we cannot take the responsibility from the developed country and developing country in the same label. So that's one thing here. So here what we are going to achieve, what it achieved. So first one is the universal membership. So it brought almost every nation, that is 198 in number, together under one treaty. So that's one thing, universal membership. Another thing, framework for agreement. So it created the structure, conference of parties, which we can call COP. So it created the structure for ongoing negotiation and agreements. So which kind of agreement we are talking it here? Kyoto Protocol or Paris Agreement. So these two agreements are here to tackle the climate change. So some talk about the COP. What is the COP or Conference of Parties? It is a supreme decision making body for major UN environmental treaties, most famously the one which we are talking, UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, where member countries, that we call them parties also, because previously what we have seen it here, under universal membership, it brought almost every nation, that means country, which we are tagging it with the parties. So 198 parties together under one treaty. So here where member countries or parties meet annually to review progress, negotiate global policies, and adopt measures to tackle climate change, biodiversity loss, or trade in endangered species. So these yearly summit, so these here COP, they will be yearly meeting will be there. So these yearly summit bring together government, scientists, stakeholder to global environmental goals and hold nation accountable for commitment. So what is the another point under this one? Mandate for action. What is here? So it about this UNFCCC mandate for nation. So it sets the objective to limit global warming and adapt to unavoidable changes, guiding global climate policy ever since. So now we get some idea of UNFCCC. So another one is Kyoto Protocol. So what is this Kyoto Protocol? In the previous discussion, we do talk about, when I am discussing our UNFCCC formation, it is a foundational, when we are talking about UNFCCC formation, it is established a foundational treaty for international climate action. So what are the different foundational international treaty, or we are talking about the agreement? So one is the Kyoto Protocol and another one is the Paris Agreement. So there is a UNFCCC, then we are talking about the Kyoto Protocol, and then we will move to the Paris Agreement. So let's see this one, Kyoto Protocol and UNFCCC. So this UNFCCC is an overarching agreement, and when we do talk about the Kyoto Protocol, was its first legally binding implementation tool. Okay, so adding concrete target for developed nation to cut their greenhouse gas emission, unlike our UNFCCC general goal of stabilization. In Kyoto Protocol, there is some binding has been given or some target has been given to developed nation. So here what we are talking about? We are talking about binding with respect to developed nation. One more categorization we are having, that is a developing nation. So there is some terminology will be there under Kyoto Protocol, which further we will be seeing. So what we have seen in the Kyoto Protocol, there is some binding or emission target is given to developed nation. So the change was not a replacement. So when we are talking about moving from UNFCCC to Kyoto Protocol, so this change was not a replacement. So we are not replacing, but a operationalization of UNFCCC. What it is doing? Introducing binding commitment. And there is a first timeline was given 2008 to 2012. It is a first timeline. Second timeline is 2013 to 2020, like that. And market mechanism, when we do talk about the Kyoto Protocol, it does work with some kind of mechanism. So there is a couple of the mechanism we do have. We call that market mechanism. That is a CDM, GI, which further we will be discussing to achieve emission reduction based on the principle of, what is the principle? Common but differentiated responsibilities. So this the common but differentiated responsibility with respect to the our developed and developing countries. So there is a some expectation under the Kyoto Protocol from the developed countries, and then there is a different expectation from the developing countries. So this is about it. So moving on, if we see this UNFCCC framework, so what it is? It is a framework. What is the goal of that one? To stabilize greenhouse gas concentration in atmosphere to prevent dangerous climate change. And then what is the nature of this one? A broad global treaty encouraging voluntary action. It sets the stage but did not mandate the specific cut. So this is about it. When we do talk about the Kyoto Protocol, so it is an action plan. It is a what? It is a framework. And when we do talk about the Kyoto Protocol, it is an action plan. So here we are talking about the binding. So this one, an international treaty linked to the UNFCCC operationalizing its goal. The second, key change or binding target, set legally binding emission reduction target. Here the example given, 5% below 1990 level for 37 industrialized countries and EU for the first commitment. What is the first commitment period? 2008 to 2012. What is the key change here with respect to the previous one? That the framework we are talking about here, mechanism. So it is a created market based mechanism like clean development mechanism, international emission trading, to help countries meet their target cost effectively. What is the principle? Principle is that it applied common but differentiated responsibilities and placing the onus on the developed nation due to their historical emission. So here what it is been put it here, on the developed nation we are giving some responsibility. What kind of responsibility? Because if we see the pre-industrial era, so that is 70-70 or 70-90 something we are taking. So during the pre-industrial era, if we see the concentration of a CO2, it is a 280 ppm. But as of now, what is the concentration of a CO2? 427. It is a CO2 concentration as of Jan 2026. And what this is the concentration we have reported for CO2 before pre-industrial era. So when we do see these two concentration, there is a rise in 50% CO2 has increased. So this increase in CO2, who is responsible? So when we see this all, so it was found that developed nation, they are in very good position, and all this development, industrialization and development was done in developed nation. Developing nation, they are still in development phase, so we cannot have the same expectation from the developed nation or from the developing nation with respect to the CO2 emission. So that is the principle here, applied common but differentiated responsibility. Okay, so why this shift was suggested from our UNFCCC to the one Kyoto Protocol? So there is a need for action. What is the first point? The scientific consciousness demanded concrete action beyond the UNFCCC general call for the stabilization and accountability. Kyoto moved from encouragement to commitment. What it has moved from encouragement to commitment, making emissions reduction economically valuable and enforceable for Annex 1 countries. So this then here one new term we have seen it, Annex 1. So there is some terminology which we will be discussing now. So talking about this Kyoto Protocol, it paved the way for later agreement like Paris Agreement. Currently we are talking about the Kyoto Protocol. So Kyoto Protocol paved the way for the latter agreement, which superseded it by creating a universal framework with nationally determined contribution, that is an NDC, for all countries, not just for the developed one. So in the Kyoto Protocol, we are more focusing about common but differentiated responsibility. As we move to Kyoto Protocol, we are now talking about the Paris Agreement, and this Kyoto Protocol has paved the way for the our Paris Agreement. And what in this agreement was been discussed, we are not only talking about the developed countries, it was the responsibility of all. So there was some creation of a universal framework which we call that nationally determined contribution, NDC. So now we get some idea. So there was some framework we are talking about, some action plan we are talking about. So framework is a UNFCCC. When we do talk about the action plan, that is our Kyoto Protocol. So let's get some more idea about the Kyoto Protocol. So the Kyoto Protocol was first adopted on 11th December 1997. So owing to complex rectification process, it entered into force on 16th Feb 2005. So currently how many parties or countries are the member or associated with this Kyoto Protocol? Currently we have the 192 parties to the Kyoto Protocol. And what is the aim? It aims to combat climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emission. So it established legally binding target for industrialized nation. So here one new word we have seen it, industrialized nation, or we call that Annex 1 countries, or we call them developed countries. So it established legally binding target for industrialized nation to reduce their emission by an average of 5% below 1990 level over the commitment period from 2008 to 2012. So what was expectation? There is a, from this industrialized nation or Annex 1 countries, they are expecting them to reduce their emission from 5% below 1990 level. So this is the expectation was set, okay. And what is the commitment period here? 2008 to 2012. So in short, what we can call it here, the Kyoto Protocol operationalizes the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, okay, by committing industrialized countries and economies in transition, we can call it EIT, to limit and reduced greenhouse gas emission in accordance with agreed individual target. So this is the one. So this convention itself only asks those countries to adopt policies and measure on mitigation and to report periodically. So this Kyoto Protocol is expecting industrialized countries and economics in transition, these two categories, to limit and reduce their greenhouse gas emission in accordance with their agreed individual target. So this Kyoto Protocol, as discussed, it is based on the principle and provision of a convention and follows its annex based structure. So annex based structure is the one. Annex, we are going to talk about Annex 1, then we do have Annex B and other, which we will be seeing this. So it only binds developed countries and places a heavier burden on them under the principle of this common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. What is the principle of a Kyoto Protocol? Common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities, because it recognizes that they are largely responsible for current high level of a greenhouse gas emission in the atmosphere. Now there is something we are talking here, Annex B. So in its Annex B, the Kyoto Protocol sets binding emission reduction target for 37 industrialized countries and economics in transition and the European Union. So here what we have, when we do talk about the Annexer 1, okay, so Annexer 1 only we are talking about our industrialized nation. Okay, so these countries or developed countries, we are giving the Annex 1. When we do talk about Annex B, so here we do have in Annex B, the Kyoto Protocol sets binding emission reduction target for 37 industrialized countries, economic in transition, and one more, here we do have the European Union. So overall these targets adds up to average of 5% emission reduction compared to 1990 level over the 5-year period. So 8 to 12. Okay, so what the different terminology we should be knowing under the Kyoto Protocol? So let's discuss this different terminology. So the terminology in the context of our Kyoto Protocol refer to our classification system that is established under the UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So what that assign different responsibilities to nation based on their economic development state and historical contribution to the greenhouse gases. So this is something basis of our UNFCCC framework. So it assigns different responsibilities to the nation based on their economical development status, that's one thing, and historical contribution to greenhouse gas emission. So what is this Annex 1? So Annex 1 countries. So here we are having the group of industrialized nation and economics in transition, that these countries are listed in Annex 1 of UNFCCC. So this is the 137, we are talking about the industrialized nation and economics in transition, okay, that are listed in our Annex 1. So what is the obligation of this categorization? So obligation is under the Kyoto Protocol, Annex 1 parties accepted legally binding target to limit or reduce their greenhouse gas emission. So they are expected to take the lead in addressing the climate change due to their historical responsibility for the majority of a atmospheric greenhouse gas concentration. So why it was told historical responsibility? Because when we do talk about 150 years of industrialization, so who has who has contributed more for polluting our environment? If we have to see that, so who are currently in the developed stage? So they have done all the industrialization, they were contributed more towards this the stage we are currently. So we cannot have the same expectation from our developed countries or from the developing countries. So in the Kyoto Protocol, more expectation or more responsibility were given to the developed countries, okay. So this example we can take it. So this group includes a member of Organization for Economic Cooperation Development, that is OECD, as of 1992. So who were the member of this one? United States, Japan, most Western European nation, and EIT, that is the Russian Federation, Ukraine, and Poland. So what is the mechanism here we do have? Annex 1 countries could use mechanism like international emission trading and joint implementation with another Annex 1. So when we do talk about how this is working, our mechanism working, which currently this Kyoto Protocol work with some mechanism. So when we are talking about this couple of this classification like Annex 1 countries, currently we do talk about, then here with respect to Annex 1 countries, how this mechanism work, that is example. So just we can see it here. So when we do have some mechanism which we are talking about like international emission trading, or we call that emission trading, so we can call that IT, or when we are mentioning it international emission trading, we can call that IET. So when we are talking about this trading or mechanism with respect to Kyoto Protocol, so this mechanism is, if we have the countries that is classified as Annex 1 or falls under Annex 1, so if we have the two countries which are there in Annex 1, so this Annex 1 countries could use mechanism. What kind of mechanism we are talking about? International emission trading or joint implementation. So these two kind of mechanism, they can get along with the another Annex 1 countries, and clean development mechanism with the non-annex countries to help to meet their target cost effectively. So what is this mechanism? We will be seeing further. Another example we do have, another classification we do have, that is a developed countries. So this, with respect to developed country, this term is generally used interchangeably with the Annex 1 country in the context of a Kyoto Protocol core commitment, or we can call that emission target. So this, when we are talking developed countries, so this developed country or Annex 1, we can, it can be interchangeable. So either we can use it Annex 1 or we can use it developed countries. And there is a one specific subgroup which we call that Annex 2 countries. So Annex 2 countries which are developed OECD member, but it exclude the EIT. So under there is one more subgroup, that is a all they are Annex 1, but when we are mentioning it is Annex 2, so only we are talking about developed OECD member, but we are excluding EITs, okay. So this a specific subgroup which we call that Annex 2 countries had the additional obligation. What the obligation they do have? To provide financial resources and facilitate technology transfer to developing countries to help them with their climate change. So when we have this OECD member, so what they have the responsibility, they have to help financially or technology transfer to be transferred or done to developing countries, and this way they are going to help developing countries in regard of a climate change effort. here we have start the talk of the developing countries. So let's see the developing country. So these are referred to as a non-annex party. So we were talking about Annex 1, then we do talk about developed country, then we do talk about the Annex 2. Now we are talking about the non-Annex 1 parties. So what is this non-Annex 1 parties? So these non-Annex 1 parties are nothing but we are referring the developing countries. So include the majority of our world nations like China, India, Brazil. What is the obligation of these countries with respect to Kyoto Protocol? So first obligation is they have developing countries did not have legally binding emission reduction target under our Kyoto Protocol. That's the one thing. Another, the principle of, when we are talking the principle of common but differentiated responsibility, recognize that imposing emission target could hinder their economic development and poverty eradication effort. Why this is important here? When we are talking about the developing countries or non-Annex 1 parties, so what is problem? If we are going ahead with this principle, that principle state common but differentiated responsibility. So when we are imposing our emission target, so if we are impose the emission target same as a developed one, so what will be the problem in developing countries? They will hinder their economical development and poverty eradication effort, because still they are in process of utilizing the fossil fuels for energy generation, power generation, or any other uses, like when they have to go for the overall development, social economical development, mostly they are more dependent on our fossil fuels. So completely we cannot immediately, it can be not be those countries shifted from our fossil fuel uses to renewable. So that's the thing. If we do so or impose any rule, so what will happen? Imposing the rule with respect to emission target. So if we are imposing the rule with respect to emission target, it could hinder their economic development and poverty reduction effort. So what is the participation point of view? What is their role? So they could participate in Kyoto Protocol through clean development mechanism. So we do talk about the couple of mechanism. It was listed. Furthermore, we will be discussing about this different mechanism, what does it mean and how does it work. Okay, so but here currently we are understanding different terminology with respect to our Kyoto Protocol. So we have seen Annex 1, we have seen Annex 2. Annex 1 is nothing but developed one, and then we do talk about Annex 2, that is a non-annex countries, that is non-annex 2, that is your developing countries. Here we are talking about the developing countries, so they could participate in the Kyoto Protocol through the mechanism we call that clean development mechanism. So what it does, it allowed them to host reduction projects that generated certified emission reduction credit. So here we have started talking about some credit. So what's that credit, or we can call that carbon credit, and under that then further we have to know there is something certified emission reduction. So what are these all terminology with respect to credit we will be seeing. So here about the participation of the developing countries. So these developing countries can participate in a Kyoto Protocol through the mechanism called the clean development mechanism. So under this mechanism, what is allowed? It allowed to host emission reduction project that generate the certified emission reduction credit. So these company can host means they can give their resources for generating the emission reduction project, like they may apply the solar technology or they may apply the wind technology in their own country. They can host for that, and this way when we are not using the fossil fuels, what we are using the renewable, and this way they may reduction in emission would be there. So what is the benefit then other countries are getting? Annex 1 countries or parties, what benefit they are getting? So these credit could then be purchased by Annex 1 countries to meet their own target. So now we have started talking about some purchasing, buying and selling, or some credit. So now that further we will see this. So this now there is a, we are talking about Annex 1, we are talking about Annex 2, non-annex we do talk. Now something we do have the Annex A. So what is this Annex A? So these terminology we will be keep seeing under the Kyoto Protocol. So Annex A of the Kyoto Protocol list the specific greenhouse gases targeted for reduction by industrialized nation. Okay, so these greenhouse gases have been listed under one category, and all these greenhouses together we call that annex. Under annex 1 these are listed. So these gases are targeted for reduction. So these gases are targeted for reduction by industrialized nation. So here what are the gases? Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, sulfur, hexafluoride, and later on nitrogen trifluoride also been added, but it was added under annex 1 in the second commitment. So what is the second commitment period we do have? 2013 to 2020. First commitment period we do talk about, that's the one. Okay, with these gases, so from where these gases are coming? These gases are coming from the various sector like energy, industrial process and waste. So it defines the scope of emission cut for annex 1 countries under protocol goal to combat global warming by stabilizing your greenhouse gas concentration. So what is the significance of Annex A? So first is defines regulated gases. So it provides the definitive list of gases that Annex 1, that is your developed countries, must limit. That's the one thing. So it defines the number of gases, and it is expected from this developed or annex 1 countries to limit this uses, or we have to mitigate this uses. So second is the source categories. What is that? The annex also specifies the source or sector of these emission. So these gases are coming from the some emission source. So this annex also specifies the source or sector of these emission. So what are the, like fuel combustion, industrial processes, solvent use and waste requiring reporting and reduction effort, that is there. Now the basis for commitment. So what is the basis for commitment? Binding emission reduction target in Annex B are calculated. How it will be calculated? Based on these greenhouse gases and their sources, and it would be aiming for overall cut by the Annex 1 parties. So we get some idea here. And talking about the mechanism of the Kyoto Protocol, as in the previous discussion we do see some couple of the mechanism was mentioned. So let's get more about this one. So this Kyoto Protocol, there is some mechanism under this. So this Kyoto Protocol introduced several innovative mechanisms to assist countries in meeting their emission target. So what are these mechanisms? So first one is the emission trading, or we can call that international emission trading, or we have the ET or IET. It will be written this way somewhere. So this emission trading allowed countries with surplus emission allowances to sell these to countries that exceeded their target, and forming the foundation for the carbon trading market. So what we understand here about this, we have seen the categorization of the countries. If we do take the two countries, one is the annex country which belong from annex 1, another country we are again taking which just belong to annex 1. So this is a country A, this is a country B. When we do talk about these two countries, so what is being done under the emission trading here? There is a one country which is having the surplus allowances, okay, and the one countries which is having the less emission as much it was given to emit yearly. So what this company will do, they have already exceeded, country A or party A, they have already exceeded, so they will be buying or do some transaction with the country B, and this way what we call that, there is some trading we are doing. So it is a forming the foundation for the carbon trading market. Okay, so once again we will see this one. So what is emission trading? It allowed countries with surplus emission allowances, if they have the surplus emission allowances, so they may sell. To whom they will be selling? They will sell this emission, surplus emission, to countries that exceeded their target. Okay, so they have this, the countries, they have the surplus emission allowances, they are selling to the countries they have already exceeded their target. So this way they are doing this transaction of what? They are doing the transaction of a carbon. So that's why we call that carbon trading market, or carbon credit we will be further seeing with this, because they are crediting the carbon. The second mechanism, we do have the clean development mechanism. So what it is? It enables developed countries to invest in emission reduction project in developing nation. So the one which we are talking about here, when we have this participation with respect to developing nation. So how they are participating in Kyoto Protocol? So they are developing nation, they are participating in Kyoto Protocol through the clean development mechanism. So under this mechanism, what we are doing, this CDM enable developed countries to invest in emission reduction projects. What they are investing? They are investing in emission reduction project. So where this emission reduction project will be invested? It will be invested in developing nation. And this way what they will be earning? They are going to earn the certified emission reduction that counted towards their target. So here we have seen there is a one thing that in trading is being done. Okay, surplus amount is getting sell to exceeded to the countries who have exceeded their target. Here we are talking about the clean development mechanism, where these developed countries are investing in emission reduction project in developing nation. So this way what they are earning? They are earning the certified emission reduction, and that is getting counted towards your total target. One more we do have, that is our joint implementation. We call that JI. So what it does, it allowed industrialized countries or Annex 1 to earn emission reduction unit, that is a ERU. How? By investing in project to that reduced emission in another industrialized countries. So here in clean development mechanism, these developed countries are investing in developing nation. But in case of a joint implementation, what it is being done, these industrialized countries are investing in another industrialized countries. How? By any project that reduce the emission. So this way what they are earning? They are earning the emission reduction unit, or we call that ERU. Here what they are earning? They are getting in clean development mechanism, they are earning the certified emission reduction. And when we do talk about the trading, so here trading is being done between the Annex 1 countries. So talking about the second commitment period, so we have seen the first commitment period was 2008 to 2012, and then second one is 2013 to 2018. Now we reach to the conclusion part. So in the today's discussion, we first started with UNFCCC, then we moved to the Kyoto Protocol. So here we do discuss these two things, and we do discuss about the Kyoto Protocol mechanism as well lastly. So this is all for today. See you in the next class. Thank you.